Okay, Bub, are you ready for your close-up? No, I know you know your lines, but let's talk about what else you've done. Well, did you fill out a workflow template? I understand that's challenging work, but we've seen in the past how it really helps you inform your character and the world they live in. And then that translates directly into your performance level. Okay, I understand. This was a challenging character. I don't agree. I think you have a great imagination. Sure, I would love to help you, Bub. Are you ready? This is Acting as an Artform. Take 2. Let's start this episode with a question. Do you notice anything different about me? I mean, anything at all? Take your time. I'll give you a hint. So this is an example of one of the most obvious continuity errors when your actor puts on the wrong wardrobe in between takes. Now, if you noticed in the opening, the bub back there, he had a little bit of a problem with his eye line in between takes. We had a master shot and then we had some of his close-ups and his eye line kind of jumped back and forth. And I probably could have cut around that, but the last thing that an actor wants is an editor sitting in a room trying to fix a problem that he shouldn't have in the first place by thinking of a way to cut around some of your takes. And that is going to always end up bad for the actor, because as soon as the editor starts throwing out takes, now he's reducing the chances of you getting your highest possible performance level into the final edit. I'm going to do a complete video on continuity, and this is one of those things that's going to come up over and over again as the channel progresses. So I want you to put in the comments down below if you want to see an entire episode on continuity, and also ask me any question you want about acting or the acting profession, which, by the way, those are not always directly related. So the final note is continuity is something that we're going to continue to work on. It's like a lot of things in the acting profession. It's always work in progress as we strive to improve your toolbox. Okay, let's get back to what I had in mind for the original episode today, workflow. Now, workflow is a word that gets used in a lot of different industries in a lot of different ways, and I actually use it multiple ways in the book, like a lot of the tools depending on the situation. So we're going to look at 3 of those ways today. Now, one of the ways we use the word workflow is what is the workflow of the project itself? And is this project a commercial? Is it a feature film? Is it an episodic television show? What is it that we can expect? Another way we use workflow is what does the actor do at home once they've been given a script and a certain amount of time to prepare to get ready. Now, that is true whether it's an audition or whether they've already booked a role. The third way we're going to use workflow is what is the workflow on a set once the actor arrives, and what are they going to be expected to do? And believe it or not, there's great variation in an actor's expectation once they arrive on set, depending on many, many factors that we're going to talk about. We might as well go ahead and start by taking a look inside the book and see what it says about workflow. This book is an instruction manual for the acting craft. It was written to not only help actors develop as artists, but also to help teach actors a system that will allow them to self-direct or work with any director to reach their highest possible performance level. While some of the system's base comes from Stanislavski's method, by studying other well-known acting approaches over the last 25 years, and working intimately with actors in every conceivable medium, I've built a more sustainable and diverse contemporary workflow for actors to use. One of the questions I get asked most often by actors is, what can I do at home when I'm alone working on a role? My answer is always, master a workflow. This is why the system in this book uses dozens of interactive tools together, so the actor can use those in a way that fits with their individual artistic sensibilities. The more time an actor spends mastering their tools and applying them to the roles they are given, the higher the level of acting they will achieve. So once we've determined what kind of project it is, that's going to help us establish how much information we're going to be given to build our character. And again, this is going to vary in every situation, and it's something we want our actors to be totally prepared for, no matter if they're getting no information or if they're getting an entire script. Now, if it is going to be an in-person audition, hopefully you're going to get further information to build on what you already did in your self-tape so that you can take that performance to the next level when you're standing there in front of the decision makers. Once we've established what kind of project this is and what we're going to be expected to do, the first step is always to read the script numerous times and see what kind of information we can gather from the text and from any stage direction that might be listed there. The next step is obviously memorizing the dialogue. Please, 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 always take the time to memorize the dialogue. Now, there is no one way to do this, and every actor I know has a different process that they follow, but one thing that is really helpful is now there are a number of apps that actors can use where they actually feed in the lines of the other character, and then the app will read it back to them so they can say their lines in the gaps and continue to practice and go over the script over and over and over again until they have it completely memorized. I'll put some links to the different apps below, and I really suggest you give these a try. But I will say, no matter what, if you're going to use the apps, once you do have the dialogue fairly memorized, if you can find another actor to go over the lines in person with you, I always think this is a better way to go about it. Now, next is rehearsal, and this is a key part of any actor's performance. So no matter what your life situation or how much time you're going to be given by the project to rehearse, please try to get as much of it in as possible, and it's always going to benefit you once you reach the set. One of the goals of rehearsal is to make sure that you're truly off book. And the real test to see if you're off book is not to read the script in a linear order, because you are almost never going to be shooting completely in a linear order. You might do one or two master shots like that, but eventually the director's going to ask you to start and stop, and that means that you're going to have to pick up cues in the dialogue from the other actor's lines. So I suggest that the actor always try to rehearse out of order. Let the app or let the other actor give you a cue and see if you know the response. If you don't know the response to every cue that you're given, you're not truly off book, and I suggest you spend a little bit more time memorizing the dialogue. Okay, now it's time to take a look at the actual workflow template that's in the book, and there's a blank one included with many of them that have already been filled out that go hand in hand with the scenes that you're going to be able to use as practice or put up in some kind of audition or maybe even in a performance. Now remember, this workflow template is just a place that we're going to begin. There are dozens and dozens of tools in our system that you're going to be able to rely on and consistently add to your toolbox to expand your art form, no matter what the project is. How do we start to fill out the workflow template? Where do we get the information from? We're going to look at each of the individual things that we have listed, and I'm going to go over those in a separate video. But for now, I'll give you a quick thumbnail of what each of them means, and the place to start with all of these is always the script. The script is what we know to be true, and the script is something we always want to go back to as we're expanding our characters and building the world to make sure that we have clarity and consistency in our work. So the first tool listed in our workflow template is character descriptions and background. This is fairly self-explanatory, but what we want you to do is open up your imagination and try to come up with some details about what makes this character who they are. Once you've done that, another really good suggestion is to do a character background for the other character in the scene. Next on the list is the location. And while this sounds like it might be obvious, oftentimes the script is not going to give you specificity when it comes to what the world looks like that your character is actually living through in this scene. Finding that specificity can really be beneficial when the actor is trying to imagine what the character is going through. Next is the plot. Now, you can get as extensive as you want when describing the plot, but we found that it really helps actors to take a 30,000-foot view of what their character is going to be going through during the entire journey, even the parts of the journey that are not in the scene. The next tool is the relationship backstory. What is the relationship between you or your character and the other character in the scene? Not the relationship like, are they brother, sister, husband, wife, lover? How do these characters feel about each other emotionally? And what are the elements that are contributing to those emotions? Immediate prior circumstances. Now, the definition of immediate prior circumstances in our system is what happened to the characters in the previous 30 seconds, 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes before the scene began. If you don't know where your characters are coming from, it's going to be very hard to establish an emotional resonance, or what we call communion, off the top, and the first line is going to prove to be very challenging. Next, we have communion and emotional resonance. This is the air in the room. What does it feel like? What does it look like? What's the tone of the scene? How are these characters going to respond to each other given the dialogue that's about to come? Important text analysis and direction. What text analysis involves is going through the scene line by line, word by word, and seeing if you can pick out any of the particulars that are unique to that character's dialogue. Is there a specific city mentioned? Is there a reference to something that happened in the past? Is there a word or phrase that is unique, and how are we going to inform that word, and why is it there? List of questions the actor must know the answer to. As you go through the dialogue, questions are inevitably going to come up about context. The way we find context is by forming the questions that we are going to use our imagination to answer in order to start to look for the emotional resonance as we say the words. Remember, it's not just important to know your lines and to know your words. It's important to know the communion that's going on between the characters in that moment. Finally, as I mentioned before, we want clarity and consistency of character. This is called the 3 C's, and we find the 3 C's by always checking back with the text and making sure that none of the lines are clunking and that we're not having trouble with any of the transitions between the lines of dialogue that are going on as we reach the different peaks and valleys of the scene and as our character arcs play out. The third way I'm going to use the word workflow is once you've booked a job and arrive on set. What kind of director or decision maker are you going to be working with? Is this a director that has a lot of experience working with actors and helping them find characters? Because today, not all of them do. Does he even have the time to do this, and does he understand the acting process, and if so, at what level? How you answer these questions and even just forming them is going to give you a much better idea of what you're going to be up against on any given day, and hopefully calm your nerves a little bit, because the last thing that we want is a nervous actor. We have found consistently that the more prepared our actors are, the better chance they're going to give themselves of reaching a performance level that they're going to be happy with, no matter what the director is going to do. How large is the cast, and why is this important? This is going to determine how much time you're going to be given for your individual takes or scenes, and that's something you want to know up front going in. Is the production organized? What's their shooting schedule? Are they going to be running and gunning? Are they going to expect you to be a one-take wonder? What exactly are their priorities? Finally, if you haven't already determined this, what is your character's role in the hierarchy of relationships in the entire cast and in the entire world that the story is taking place in? What is your direct relationship with the central character and all the other characters that are there to support the hero's journey that we're going to watch our main characters go through? By making these decisions, it's going to help you when you're on the fence about different actions you're going to be playing on different lines and different situations that your character is in terms of their emotionality. Because remember, every story always has a central character and some major supporting characters, and the rest of the characters are there to support this group and help lay out the plot and the information that the audience is going to be given. I often tell actors that they can learn a lot about their character by looking at what other characters say about them. No matter what the answer to all of the questions that we've posed above are, and no matter how well you're able to fill out a workflow template, please don't be the actor that comes to the set unprepared. No matter how much time you've been given, try to take advantage of that time. Remember, the more prepared you are, the more likely it is that the people who are working on the project are going to want to work with you again, and this is how actors establish a real career. I have actually been on big-time episodic television sets that are in syndication and on major networks where the stars of the show are coming to the set without even memorizing the dialogue. Now, while some of them were able to pull this off, they were certainly not at their best and certainly not reaching their highest performance level, because I saw that performance level when they did take the time to prepare and when they did actually spend time memorizing the dialogue. These actors are often given cue cards, and the cue cards are held up behind the camera, and I'll say that this is just madness. So don't be that actor, because remember, ultimately it's going to be your face up there on the screen. Take as much of the time that you've been given to prepare as possible, and we have found that it always gives actors a better chance of responding to the director or a producer or even an ad agency executive that is throwing things at you while you're on the set with 100 people standing around and you're trying to interpret what it is they want, because that is ultimately the actor's job. Thanks for watching. Ring the bell and subscribe if you want to know when the next video is coming out. And remember, keep pursuing your dream, and let's develop that imagination and get you a system you can count on so you can book that next great role.